Station Houston on Space Ground 2, are you ready for the event?
We're ready for the event, Houston.
BBC in the live Stargazing Series, this is Houston. Please call station for a voice check.
Station, this is BBC Live Stargazing Series. How do you hear me?
At BBC, we've got you loud and clear. Welcome aboard the International Space Station.
Well, thank you, Commander the Wheelock, Flight Engineer Scott Kelly, and Flight Engineer Dr. Shannon Walker. Thank you for speaking to us today. Where are you flying over right now, and how's the view?
Well, the views are always spectacular, and we're just coming down on a descending node right around Vancouver, Canada right now.
And how long does it take you to complete one orbit of the Earth?
Well, we're traveling at 17,500 miles per hour, about 28,000 kilometers per hour. And so we orbit the Earth once every 90 minutes.
And Colonel Wheelock, you're commanding ISS Expedition 25. What will be the highlights of that expedition?
Well, probably the biggest highlight is our crew is finally here to complement us and complete our crew for the rest of our journey here. And our highlight is really full utilization of the space station as an orbiting laboratory. We've got several laboratories on board, over 130 science experiments going on, and we're very excited about getting up into full operation.
Yes, Dr. Walker, I heard you actually talking down to Houston before we linked up, and you were talking about where to put sample bottles, I think it was. Could you tell me a little bit about what scientific experiments you plan to do when you're on board the space station?
Well, we've got a number of scientific experiments from just about every scientific field, from materials science to astronomy to biology and human physiology. And so a lot of what I'm doing actually is the human physiology side, where I'm using myself I'm being used as a test subject to study some of the effects of being in space on the human body.
Yeah, and Scott Kelly, I know that one of the highlights when you're up there, or I suppose I don't know whether to call it a highlight, will be the last visit of the space shuttle to the station. I think your brother is flying the Space Shuttle Endeavour up there. What will that be like?
Yeah, that's correct. My brother will be the commander of the Space Shuttle mission that actually brings the alpha magnetic spectrometer to the International Space Station, which is a very important scientific instrument.
And do you will you regret a little bit the flight of the shuttle? I mean, when Endeavour leaves the station for the last time, will you be sad to see that beautiful aircraft grounded?
Well, I think most astronauts feel a little bit, nostalgic when we think about these space shuttles that have been really a significant part of our space program. But, if we're going to move on beyond low Earth orbit, we need to build another vehicle because the space shuttle can't go there. So it's, something that we might feel a little bit sad about, but at the same time we understand it and we need to move forward.
Yeah, how is it? I think, have you all flown on the Soyuz and the shuttle? I wondered how those vehicles felt, how different they are to get into space and come back to Earth on the Soyuz and the shuttle.
Both Doug and I have flown on both the shuttle and the Soyuz, and this is Shannon's first flight, and she's flown up on the Soyuz. Nor Doug or I have flown down. So, the space shuttle is a multi-mission spacecraft that can do a lot of things, a lot of different types of missions. It's very complicated. The Soyuz is much simpler, and it does a few things very, very well, one of which is getting people to and from space. It's much different in how it flies, how it launches. It's more, it's a rocket that's, or a capsule that's on the top of a rocket versus on the side. The shuttle re-enters and lands in a gliding fashion, whereas the Soyuz lands on land under parachutes. So it's a much different system, but both have their advantages, and both also have some small disadvantages.
I envy you all a lot. I mean, I remember the first shuttle flight back in '81, and I remember I actually read recently that John Young, when he landed Columbia, turned to Bob Crippen and said, Bob, we're really not that far away from the stars. And I thought that reflected beautifully that optimism in the 80s. 20 years after Gagarin first launched into space, and here is this beautiful aircraft flying into space and back again. Do you think that we are closer to the stars now than we were in the early 80s when the shuttle first flew?
Yes, I believe that we are, and actually that's part of the next chapter in this story that NASA is writing. Just being able to look forward now, using what research we're doing here on the space station to project ourselves further out into our solar system, to try to discover new things about these materials, about new vehicles, propulsion systems, life support systems, and things like that. And so we're looking beyond and hoping to go further and deeper into space.
Yeah, I wonder if we had a Kennedy today, a Kennedy-like speech that said, we choose to go to Mars before this decade is out. Do you think that we'd be in a position to do that? Do we know enough to make that next great leap into the solar system now, if we had the will and the money?
I think there are certain things we're learning on the space station here that, particularly with regards to how humans react and how they can be protected against long-duration space flight. So I think we do have a little bit more to learn. We're also learning a lot about how to operate systems, life support systems, other systems here that are required for long-duration, long-distance space flight. So, this is a laboratory that does many things, and that's one of them. Someday when we do go to Mars, the things we learn here on the International Space Station will be critical to that effort. However, if we had a lot of money to throw at it, I think, and I'm somewhat of an optimist, that, anything is within our grasp. And I think we could, go to Mars, just like we went to the moon in a very short period of time in the 1960s. So I think it is within our capability to do that if we chose to.
And what would you say to people who may not see the value of manned spaceflight, of manned exploration? How would you, from that wonderful view up there? I mean, you're at the frontier at the moment of you're at the human frontier. What about people who don't think that human exploration is valuable?
Well, I think one thing it's important to get across is how human exploration of space has touched everybody's lives on the Earth. There are so many spin-offs and technological developments that have come out of the space program and the human spaceflight program in particular. So even though they may not see a direct connection, there are a lot of things that have made life on Earth a whole lot better, and we need to bring that out so they can understand that it is important. It is a very important scientific endeavor, it's a very important technological endeavor, and it's a very important human endeavor, because as humans we need to keep moving forward as a society and not stagnate. So we need to keep pushing the boundaries and keep exploring.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more, Dr. Walker. And I know that you managed or co-managed NASA's on-orbit engineering office for a while. I mean, I suppose those are the skills that we've developed in building the space station. Those are the skills we will need to fly beyond near-Earth orbit in the future.
Exactly. One of the key things is learning how to deal with problems, because things always well, a lot of things go wrong, things don't go as planned, and you've got to be able to deal with them expeditiously and in whatever manner you have. You don't always have all the tools on board that you need or would like to have to solve problems, and so being able to fix things and react to things and work around issues is very key to human exploration.
Yes, because it's interesting that I'm really looking forward to the next Mars mission, which is the Curiosity rover, which is going to go out there and search for life on Mars. Do you see that program, those robotic exploration programs, hopefully as precursors for manned landing and exploration of Mars?
I think the robotic exploration that we're doing is very important, and I think it's also important to not frame the exploration debate of whether or not we should do it as human exploration versus robotic exploration, because both sides of the equation have definite advantages. And yes, we do need to send robotic explorers out there. We've learned so much from all our rovers and all our probes that have gone to the other planets. But we also need to send people there as well to look and see with our own eyes and ears.
And could I ask you, Dr. Walker, is this your first trip into space?
Yes, this is. This is my first trip into space.
And I know that you worked, I was looking through your biography, you worked on an awful lot of space shuttle missions as a flight controller. How does it feel to make that leap from being involved in the space program on the ground to actually getting into Earth orbit and looking back at the Earth from orbit?
It was a very interesting transition going from operations and then into the engineering side, the problem solving. So I saw a completely different side of the hardware, and then on being as an astronaut back on the operations side. So I've done a lot of things, but it's been absolutely fantastic to actually be up here and live and work on the laboratory that I spent so much of my life helping to get built.
And Colonel Wheelock, I know that you're a very experienced aviator. I think that I read you've flown almost 50 different aircraft in your time. But I have to ask you, because growing up, my view of the space program, I was born in 1968. It was really the old right stuff days, Yeager and the Mercury 7 astronauts. I mean, today, is it becoming more routine, or is there still that element of the right stuff that you need to be an astronaut?
Well, I think it's becoming more of an attainable dream for our young people and our young students. When I was 9 when we landed men on the moon on Apollo 11, and I remember those days, and I felt like such an ordinary kid from such an ordinary little place that dream of being an astronaut was way too big for me, and of course I never, projecting myself out 30 or 40 years, I never dreamed that I would be here, and I think that's that over time that's a disservice we've done to some of our youth, and I think we're getting better with that. That people are realizing that it really is just taking ordinary people with an extraordinary dream that to come together to solve these problems, to work together to move forward, and I think there's more of our society and more of our young people, a larger segment that really is beginning to believe in themselves and believe in this program and in space exploration, in that this type of dream is attainable for them. So I think things have gotten better.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I do think the space program is the ultimate human achievement. I genuinely do, because it is still difficult, isn't it? I mean, I know that you guys, with your professionalism, are given the appearance of it being a routine thing to get into orbit and come back to Earth again safely. But how difficult is it up there? How difficult is it to deal with problems and fly that beautiful aircraft back to Earth, which I know you've done? Well,
actually, I'm smiling because it's a lot of fun, and no day is routine up here. Space always has a surprise waiting around every corner for us. And of course, you may have followed the pump module situation that we had back at the end of July when we had to do those 3 emergency, our contingency spacewalks to get that pump module replaced. And it's just interesting the things that happen up here because of the exposure to radiation, long-term exposure to radiation, the heating and cooling of this vehicle and everything that's outside. Because we're orbiting the Earth once every 90 minutes, every 45 minutes we're getting a sunrise or a sunset. And in direct sunlight, we're seeing temperatures anywhere between 250 and 300 degrees Fahrenheit. And then when we go into eclipse on the backside of the Earth, the temperatures can plummet to 275, 300 degrees below zero. And so when you have mechanical systems and pieces of hardware that are experiencing that type of heating and cooling, things go wrong and things don't act as they should. And so it's very, very interesting, and it's a wonderful, wonderful place for a problem-solving mind, and because it never ceases to disappoint us with the situations that arise.
And you referred to spacewalks there. I mean, are they genuinely a different feeling from being inside the shuttle or inside the space station? Do you really feel that, a closer connection, I suppose, with the Earth floating down there below you?
You really do. There's the gains get cranked up quite a bit when you open that hatch, and the only thing between you and the vacuum of space is that thin visor. It's a real eye-opening experience, and it takes a little bit of time to kind of get your mind around it. And I don't know if I suppose that you never really do quite grasp how profound it is what you're doing. So it takes a little bit more focus when you're outside, and of course it's the most encouraging part of doing a spacewalk is knowing that you've got a team of people behind you, and you can hear them in your headset, and that's very, very comforting because there are a tremendous amount of things that can go wrong out there.
Well, Station, we've run out of time, but it was a real pleasure talking to you all. Thank you. I think you are genuinely inspirational, and please keep doing it.
Well, thank you very much for joining us, and it's a real pleasure for us to talk to you today.
Perfect. Station, this is Houston ACR. That concludes the event. Thank you.
Thank you, BBC Live Stargazing Series. Station, we are now resuming operational audio communication.